I remember this one time I was giving this speech in English, and I was really nervous because I'd only practiced once before. And I would remember there was two teachers and three students watching me, and 1 minute into my speech, I didn't know what to say. I only had 8 bullet points to read off. So I was like, shit, 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 I was panicking. But in my mind, I reminded myself, it's alright to be silent. I don't mind if I fuck this up. It's chill. And that reminder, adding on a deep breath, helped me so much because then, after like 10 seconds of silence, reading my bullet points, thinking, I recuperated myself. I kept speaking again. This happened over and over, bro. This happened like 5 times. Thank God that I knew how to deal with social anxiety, especially in this situation in a high pressure, when it was high pressure. I remember the first time I struggled with social anxiety was after I watched this video called 3 Ways to Stop Awkward Silence. And I remember watching this video and thinking, oh, this is good advice. But little did I know it would be one of the worst videos I ever watched for me. Because all of a sudden, I thought silence was such a bad thing. And every time I would speak, I was so worried about the conversation going silent, I had to rely on conversation starters. I realized that when I started to watch this video, I started to worry about silence more and more. Conversations started to get way harder. That's when I realized that your reaction to the silence that you have in conversations is the actual cause of the problem, not the silence itself. Silence doesn't matter if you just don't care about it. And you may not understand this, so I'm going to give you this story. I remember I was trying to talk to this guy who I'd met him in the gym, but he was a really scary looking dude. He was very 100 kilos, very strong, and he was intimidating. And I remember when I spoke to him, I was so worried about this conversation going silent. I was so worried about what he would think about me. But a year later, I was with my friend, and this confidence boost of being with my friend helped me so much because we were having a great chat. And then I remember I said something to the guy. I was like, oh, what do you think about this? And he was like, oh, what do I think about what? So I gave this conversation a go. I tried to speak to him. And when the conversation went silent, I actually didn't mind this time because I just turned around and started speaking to my friend again. After a little while, I kept doing this. I kept speaking to this guy more and more. And I realized that silence isn't bad. It's actually needed. If you're not having silence, then are you even meeting somebody that you want to meet? If you're not nervous, then you don't care, which means they don't matter. I'm actually going to give you a story of one time silence was really good. I remember I was on this date and I really did not know what to say. I basically just met up with this girl. So I just looked her in the eye and I just didn't say anything. I just took a deep breath. And then a bit later, the words started flowing. But I guarantee if I started worrying about the silence, that whole day would have been ruined. But in fact, when I was speaking to her and going silent, and since I didn't care, there was tension building up. It was exciting, There was a bit of nervousness, but you can rephrase that as excitement, as tension, as energy. That's one of the best things I've learned is that silence is actually really good, bro, because that feeling of excitement is what makes people interested in you. Now, I get it. You might really still be struggling with this. I have a course. It's way more in-depth than these videos. Click the link in the description if you're interested. And I remember, so new point. I was in the gym. I went to the sauna and there was this girl there. And when she walked in, she was making herself kind of look like an idiot with some of the things she was saying, taking the piss. She was very relaxed. But as I started to speak to her, so first of all, she was super fun to talk to, easy to speak to. She just made it easy because she was so outgoing. She was so easygoing. She didn't care what people thought of her. And I actually pulled her up on it. And it turns out that she knew that she was showing herself as somebody who was super relaxed, a little bit stupid, not to be rude, but that really, really hit my brain. I was like, why is she doing this? She's making herself seem dumb so that people don't think that she's going to judge them. And I remember she knew exactly what this was doing for. When I asked her about it, she said, yeah, people open up to me so much more when I pretend that I'm not that smart. Maybe you should stop pretending to be that smart. Maybe you should stop caring when you say the wrong thing because it's actually human. That's what makes people comfortable around you. If you're the perfect, most well-spoken guy, people aren't going to be comfortable around you because they don't think you're human. They don't realize, especially if someone's intimidated by you, let's say you're a really big, strong guy, then if you don't make mistakes, people are going to be so anxious around you because you're a scary looking guy, right? I remember speaking to this guy in the gym one time, and I clearly panicked. It was super hard to speak to this guy. And when this happened, at this time, I wasn't comfortable with the idea of conversations going silent. And the reason silences can be awkward is when you think they're awkward, what you do is you dart your eyes around, like rapidly you look around and you visibly start panicking, and then you push something out and say something that you don't mean to say. So if you still feel this anxiety when conversation goes silent and you still remind yourself that it's fine, just make sure you hold eye contact or look in one position. Don't dart your eyes around. That is like the number one thing that does make it awkward. When you get nervous, just keep looking them in the eye or find something to keep looking at. For example, this guy in the gym, when I ran out of things to say, I just said, all right, I'm going to go back to my set, and I finished my set. And then I went to say hi. I brought up a new conversation with him when the idea flowed to my mind. Now, one of the things that's helped me become so good in these situations where I need to remind myself, don't mind bad silence, blah, 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 is this YouTube channel. Because when I started giving this advice, then when I would actually be in the situation, the advice I was giving to you would replay in my mind automatically, like coach's brain. I would know exactly what I was doing wrong in that moment. So if you're a super dedicated guy, first of all, click the link in the description for my course. Buy my course, bro. Buy my course. But if you're really dedicated, start a channel and start speaking and learning how to speak for longer. And you're going to develop an ability to identify when you're being more awkward, especially if you're giving advice on how to be more social or your experience. And maybe you blow up, bro. You could be the next big thing. Have a good day, bro.